Yada intro. Okay, so since the modern tutorial for PlanetSide 2 doesn't cover mobile spawn points, let's talk a little about the tactical advantages of positioning a spawn point behind enemy lines, though the principles can be applied for battlefield games and such as well. The Sunderer is a ground vehicle that, when not moving, can usually be deployed, preventing movement but allowing it to function as a spawn point. You can't deploy one too close to certain capture point radii, indicated as big red areas on the minimap if you're driving the Sunderer, and you can't deploy one too close to a teammate's deployed Sunderer, and each has a large ring around it to indicate a deployment block. When moving the Sunderer behind enemy lines, you have a couple equipment options, vehicle stealth and the deployment shield being the main ones. Vehicles are automatically spotted on the minimap to enemies if within a certain radius, up to a few hundred meters depending on which you're using. So if you've ever had your Sunderer being moved through a ravine and a passing fighter suddenly goes out of its way to come and dive bomb you, that's probably why. You were automatically spotted for them on the minimap because you were within radius. Vehicle Stealth, a defensive slot upgrade, has primary use as a limitation to the auto-spot range, and for a Sunderer being moved to a location, this can be helpful to get to the desired spot undetected. However, the trade-off is it's a lot easier to destroy since it has no actual defenses. Once a Sunderer is deployed into a spawn point mode, the auto-spot radius drops down to a mere 15 meters, nearly non-existent, so if you can get a Sunderer with deployment shield to the desired location without detection, its survivability becomes much greater, at least until the cloaking Sunderer is implemented, but I'll be making a full review of that once it comes out, because it may or may not be any good. There are also merits to blockade armor, but personally I prefer the deployment shield. I also generally recommend at least one upgrade rank in the Rival Combat Vehicle Performance upgrade slot to improve overall handling, since the average person can become very frustrated dealing with the game's wonky physics mechanics and awkward vehicle handling. If you take the scenic route with your deployment shield Sunderer and drive wide, you should often succeed in sneaking into the desired location anyway. If worst comes to worst, you can always certain to a Squad Logistics Valkyrie or Wraithcloak Flash for the low price of 100 or 150 certs respectively to get behind enemy lines, hack a terminal as an infiltrator, and pull a Sunderer that way. Positioning the Sunderer under rocks and in cover is preferable due to their resistance to air bombardment, as well as long-range rocket or tank attacks, and being visually noticed by passing enemies. If you make it a more complex process for a tank to drive up to your Sunderer and destroy it, you may be able to eliminate the threat alone, or avoid it entirely. Some tank drivers won't even risk moving their vehicle into such vulnerable terrain, which highlights a key point in using your surroundings to your advantage. If you're participating in a large assault on a base, if your Sunderer is too exposed, even if you do sneak it behind enemy lines, it may die rapidly once an enemy notices the stream of infantry coming from behind the base. You'd want to position it in an area not prone to be visible by enemy reinforcements that are passing by, such as tanks or aircraft. A big mistake people make is parking their surprise Sunderer directly behind an enemy base, making them immediately visible to any passing enemy vehicles on their way to the front. However, an excellent place for a Sunderer, for example, would be near a jump pad that leads to the battle, or close to it while still being far enough away that it's not heavily trafficked by enemies. This can allow you to rapidly and repeatedly flank the enemy by yourself and potentially wipe out large groups, though this often comes at the cost of not many teammates using your Sunderer and a much smaller stream of assist points, since most randoms don't know enough to recognize the opportunity. But that's of little consequence. The certs you will be making from your constant better positioning and advanced flanking maneuvers will far outweigh the trickle of a more active Sunderer. And if your teammates don't want to use your Sunderer, my dear, then it is they who won't get to participate in all the wonderful things you're going to do with that Sunderer. Their loss. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.